Almost 30 years ago, a Greensburg woman was convicted of killing her child. After 17 years in prison, new evidence proved her innocence and she was released. Today, she's one of the founding board members of the Indiana Innocence Project. George Hale has more on her story and the resources at Indiana University the project is tapping into.
On June 30th, 1995, Christine Bunch woke up to find her Greensburg home on fire. A wall of flames prevented her from reaching her 3-year-old son Tony's bedroom.
And so I ran outside screaming for help, and I picked up his tricycle and I busted out the window and I tried to climb through to get to him.
Neighbors pulled her back from the home and told her to wait for first responders.
I waited in the ambulance thinking that everything was going to be okay. They were there, they would get him, and it was going to be all right. I can still feel the panic. My heart goes faster. I can still remember the smell and the taste of it. And this fear that you're not going to be able to get in there and help.
Medics pronounced the toddler dead at the scene and transported Bunch to hospital where she was treated for cuts, burns, and smoke inhalation. Investigators told her that they believed the fire had been set intentionally.
Officers came in and told me after 2 hours that they had determined it was an arson. It couldn't have been anything but that. And I believed them.
They also believed Bunch was the one who set the fire. They charged her with murder.
It's just horrific. Well, police and prosecutors don't see her as a grieving mom. They immediately see her as a killer, as someone who didn't want to be a mom.
Key to the prosecution was evidence they presented that the fire had 2 points of origin within the home, one of them in Tony's bedroom.
I mean, what's more powerful evidence than that?
They convinced a jury to sentence Bunch to 60 years for the murder of her only child.
But she never set the fire, and she didn't kill her son.
16 years later, new defense attorneys discovered documentation showing prosecutors knew the fire likely didn't start in the bedroom, and what they relied on as evidence of diesel fuel was probably from a kerosene heater previously used in the home.
All of this evidence that shows Christine is innocent was never presented. Christine never knew about it. And she was wrongfully convicted.
Christine walked out of prison after 17 years. She's now been exonerated. Bunch and Beatty are founding board members of the Indiana Innocence Project, which formally launched last summer. A year later, the group is hiring attorneys and tapping into resources at the Maurer School of Law and IU's Criminology Department. Last year, 2023 IU grad Mackenzie Lewis helped set up the intake system for the project under supervision from criminology professor Marla Sandys.
And that's when we started receiving or accepting applications. I think as word of mouth has gotten out, as we've started sending letters into the prisons, I think people are starting to hear about it and writing in more. We have an online application on our website, indianainnocenceproject.org. And a lot of the times, family or friends will fill out the application on behalf of the incarcerated individual because obviously they don't have a lot of internet access, if any. And then we also have a physical application. If someone writes in a letter, I'll send them a copy of our physical application in the mail, and they'll send it back. Or a family member will call and let us know that they want an application, or they'll call themselves and we'll send it to them.
Volunteers with relevant backgrounds review the cases and make recommendations. Then they go to former Philadelphia prosecutor Joshua Barnett for review. He's the first legal counsel for the Indiana Innocence Project.
I do think my experience as a prosecutor, both just prosecuting, your everyday street crime and then prosecuting police misconduct, I do feel like it's really equipped me well to look at like what the prosecution has and analyze it from their perspective. And it's not all on prosecutors and cops either. A lot of the things we look at are what defense attorneys did wrong. They may have, let in evidence that they should have objected to, or not hired an expert when they should have, or just, not listened to their client.
Barnett says there isn't always a smoking gun like in Bunch's case, and prosecutors generally aren't trying to frame innocent people.
There usually has to be a lot that goes wrong. All those things go wrong because if someone really is innocent and it's like 1 or 2 things, they're likely not going to be convicted, because criminal cases are messy and oftentimes, small violations happen that don't necessarily make or break the case, but when someone's innocent and all these things, form this perfect storm, it leads to a wrongful conviction.
It's easy for somebody to sit on the sidelines has never been involved with the criminal justice system and say, these kind of things don't happen. They do happen. They happen often. And there are people out there that are begging for help, and we need to be able to help them. So that's primary mission.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm George Hale.
If you know of someone who feels they've been wrongly convicted of a crime, you can reach out to the Innocence Project on their website, indianainnocenceproject.org.